welcome to the City of Pacifica Planning Commission meeting for December 5th, 2016. Can we have a roll call, please? Yeah, that's your cue.
Commissioner Behringer?
Present.
Commissioner Evans?
Present.
Commissioner Gordon?
Here.
Commissioner Campbell?
Here.
Commissioner Clifford?
Present.
Okay. So we have a quorum. Moving on to the salute to the flag. Commissioner Campbell, would you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in terms of the next city council meeting, is there a need for a liaison?
There is an item, but there's already a liaison chosen. So Commissioner Cooper had volunteered to take the Palmetto apartment appeal.
Great. And you'll let us know if he's not able to do that.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to oral communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the Planning Commission on any issue that is not on the agenda. The time allowed for any speaker will be 3 minutes. I am not seeing.
Go ahead. Were we going to do minutes?
Approval of minutes.
I just sailed through the minutes. Oh, I sailed through several things. You're right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Clifford. We do have one set of minutes that I think can be approved because there's a quorum there. The minutes of November 21st.
And if I may, Chair, so the other two sets of minutes, the 17th and the 7th, there's a majority of the quorum that was present at those meetings.
Oh.
So if those
Well, they can
folks
be
would
approved
like
too.
to take action on those minutes, I think that would be appropriate.
Perfect. Okay. Why don't we start with November 21st, because I started with that. There's just a couple corrections. My name should probably be stricken where it appears in those minutes since I was not there. And I think I read that I was closing and opening public hearings several times. Physically impossible.
Magically.
I know. But with that correction, is there a motion to approve those minutes? Commissioner Evans.
I move to approve the minutes of November 21st.
Commissioner Clifford.
I'll second that.
Please vote.
With those changes.
Great, and that passes 4-0 with me abstaining. Okay, moving on to the minutes of November 7. And attending commissioners were Commissioner Evans, Campbell, and myself. So, do I have a motion to approve?
That's not a quorum, though, is it?
She said we can do it because there's a majority of the people who were there,
Right.
Oh.
So,
right?
So if, for example, if there's all four of you, four commissioners present to make a quorum, in order to pass any item that night, 3 of you would need to have voted. So I think it would be appropriate if you guys feel comfortable to act on these minutes.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No, I made the same mistake.
Yeah.
Commissioner Evans, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move we approve the minutes of November 7th.
Great. Commissioner Campbell?
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote.
And I'm abstaining.
Great. And that passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Moving on to the meeting minutes of October 17, 2016. Present were Commissioner Behringer, Campbell, and myself. Commissioner Campbell.
And I'll move we approve the minutes of October 17th.
Great. Commissioner Behringer.
I'll second that motion.
I'll be abstaining on that one.
Okay.
As will I.
Okay. Please vote. And that passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Okay. There is an order of agenda. Do I see a motion to approve the order of agenda? Commissioner Evans.
I move we approve the order of agenda.
Commissioner Clifford.
I'll second that.
Great, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Yes. Ironic, too, because I did not follow the order of agenda tonight. Okay, moving on to oral communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the Planning Commission on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission that is not on the agenda. Time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. I do not see any cards, so I will be moving on from that. Moving on to the public hearing. We have 2 continued public hearings on the agenda. We're going to the first one, which is a coastal development permit filed by applicant Carissa Savant and owner CRP PSE Seaside Pacific Owner LLC for the renovation of an existing 93-unit mobile home park, commonly known as Pacific Skies Estates, located at 1300 Palmetto Avenue, Pacifica. The recommended action is to continue it to a future date, and this item will be re-noticed to the public. Could we have a staff report, please?
Sure. So as the staff report states, additional time is needed to prepare the geotechnical analysis that the Planning Commission requested, or the peer review that the Planning Commission requested. And this is somewhat unique in that the Planning Commission continued to a date specific, but we also said we would renotice to the public. So because it was continued to a date specific, you see this on your agenda today in case anybody wanted to come to make public comments. So the motion here is to open the public hearing to accept public comments if there are any, and to simply continue this item with no date specific, and when it is ready to come back, we will renotice it to the public.
Perfect. So shall we open the public hearing? Okay. The public hearing is now open. Anybody wishing to speak on the matter, please submit a card. But we will not be discussing it substantively. Okay, I do not see any interest, so I am going to close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Commissioner Clifford.
I move that we continue this to a date uncertain.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans.
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Moving on to the second continued public hearing. It's a coastal development permit, site development permit, and variance filed by applicant Chris Loswick to construct a balcony enclosure for a 154-square-foot balcony located at 2355 Beach Boulevard, apartment 202 in Pacifica. A variance is required as the unit would no longer meet the 150-square-foot private open space standard per Pacifica Municipal Code Section 9-4.2402, subsection C. The recommended CEQA status is categorical, Class 1 categorical exemption, and the recommended action is to deny. And the staff has also prepared an alternative action to approve as condition. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Assistant Planner Bonnie O'Connor. Tonight we are continuing the hearing for a project that was originally opened at the November 21st, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant is seeking Planning Commission approval to permit an unlawful 130-square-foot enclosure of a 154-square-foot balcony. On November 21st, 2016, the Planning Commission received a presentation by the staff recommending denial of the site development permit, coastal development permit, and the variance based on the inability to make findings for the site development permit and the variance. During the hearing, the Planning Commissioners decided to continue the hearing and requested that staff confirm that the use of the space is compliant with California Building Code, complete analysis for the coastal development permit, and provide analysis to support the variance and site development permit. On November 29th, planning staff and the building official met with the applicant to discuss the use of the enclosed space and potential California Building Code issues. The building official identified that the enclosed space, no matter the use, would violate the California Building Code as the development would impact the original bedroom's direct egress to the outside. Additionally, the dimension of the enclosed space is below the minimum requirement for habitable space as defined in the building code. As requested by Planning Commission, staff completed the analysis for the coastal development permit and provided analysis to support the variance and site development permit and approve the project. But based on the information obtained by the obtained about the building code violations, staff included condition of approval number 7, which would require the applicant to redesign the project to meet building code requirements, and condition of approval number 1, which would require the applicant to rectify any current building code violations associated with the unpermitted development within 30 days. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is here, so I can answer questions.
Okay, great. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Clifford.
On that 30 days to rectify the unpermitted work, that's a condition whether or not it's approved?
It's a condition of the approval. However, if it's not approved tonight, we will likely move forward separately with our code enforcement.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to be clear on that. I was hearing that it was a condition of approval, and I also knew that it couldn't stand if we didn't approve it, so thank you.
Any further questions for staff? I don't. Commissioner Evans.
Yeah, I'll ask it now. As this is stated, it's an uninhabitable location or space, correct?
Correct.
Would it be considered that if it were just an enclosed deck like the others that were made that way?
So the other balconies from Building 1 is which I think you're referring to. They enclosed their balconies in a way that extended the original living space, whereas this creates a new portion separate from the existing living space. So there is one of the options that the building official discussed with the applicant is removing the existing original exterior wall between the bedroom and the enclosed balcony to make it one enlarged room. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw in the pictures that there were two different configuration condominiums, so, yeah, you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any further lights. So at this point, the applicant has an opportunity to address the commission if he or she so chooses. And if so, you've got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. I won't take up 10 minutes, though. So, Christian, Bonnie, Tina, thank you for all being here. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you for all your hard work. It's been an extremely informative process. So I'd like to just start off by saying this is my first home I ever bought, and I apologize for being naive, but that's no excuse for ignorance. It's no excuse for ignorance. I respectfully and humbly accept whatever outcome or decision comes from tonight. And that's the way my dad taught me in life, is that you just got to handle the consequences. And that's what I intend to do with this situation. If it needs to get torn down, just let me know, and I'll abide by those specifications. So I appreciate you all being here tonight, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Commissioner Clifford.
Yeah, I had a quick question of the applicant.
Mr. Clifford.
Yes. Do you feel that you would be able to finance the remodeling of extending that, taking out the wall between the existing exterior wall and extending everything out to the outside?
Not at this point, Mr. Clifford, due to the fact that I invested $5,000 in the construction of it to make it sound and professional, and then I invested an initial, what is it up to now? $7,000 in permits. So, thank you, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Behringer.
Yeah, I have a question. Just so I'm clear, and maybe both of you can answer this. So currently there's a wall between what's called bedroom 1 and the porch. It's totally closed off?
I believe there's what you answer?
There's a large window.
There's a window?
Correct.
Okay. So your suggestion is to make it compliant is to remove entirely that wall?
It would have to, I don't know the exact minimum width that would have to be removed to allow the building official to give it its stamp of approval, but a good portion of that wall would have to be removed.
Do you think it would be acceptable if you just, because there's a header over the window, so if you just removed the window and made it a cased opening so that the bedroom one and the porch area were all one contiguous space and not divided, in your opinion, conceptually, do you think that might satisfy the code requirement?
Something along that line would probably work.
So that would be less expensive for you to do. Do you think you'd be able to do that?
Of course.
Okay. All right. That was the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Behringer.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to open up the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak on this matter can fill out a card. You don't have to. I don't see any cards, so I'm going to close the public hearing and bring the deliberations back to the commission to hear what the wishes of the commission are. Commissioner Clifford.
Hopefully staff can answer this. How wide is that window? Does it show up on any of the drawings? I'm trying to get a sense of how much just putting basically an archway in where the window is.
It's not to scale, but you can see on this one. On that one, you can see.
Unfortunately, I don't have that measurement for you.
Would the applicant be able to tell me how wide that window is?
It's about 5 feet by 5 feet.
Okay, it's a 5 foot, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Evans.
I'll break the silence. It's for staff. If we were to approve the variance and approve it with the opening of the window to I won't say a doorway, but just a passageway, would that still have to be done within 30 days?
It is the city's preference that that any violations are addressed within 30 days. So whether that is to make the enclosure compliant with building codes or remove what's necessary to make it compliant, that's not really our concern, but due to the potential safety concerns, the building official was adamant to make that rectified as soon as possible.
Yeah, I understand that. So if the applicant were to be working on the permitting and the design immediately after this, that would be part of the process considered within the 30 days, correct?
That could be one avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Behringer.
Yes, thank you. My position, as I expressed it last time, is I'd like to be able to help out a member of our community and move this project forward. I think that if he would be willing to agree to a condition to take the current window and basically open that area up and make it a cased opening from the floor level to the header, and that width hopefully would satisfy the building department as being adequate to create one contiguous space and satisfy the code, then I would support this project so we could move forward.
Commissioner Clifford.
Well, I'm just a little leery of saying, okay, we got a 5 foot window and we're going to say that it's all right for him to do that when the building official may say, no, that's not sufficient to meet the needs of the codes. So we could go ahead and do that, and the building official could say, no, this isn't going to work, and it probably isn't going anywhere. I'm just wanting to put that out there, that just because we said it's 5 feet's enough, I don't want that to force the building official's hand.
Oh, sure. Well, we could make it subject to, and then,
Yeah.
assuming there's a problem, I assume they'd have to come back to us, and we'd have to have yet another discussion.
Well, and we could set it up. Something like that is generally done, if you wanted to enlarge that space, you put a couple of jacks up, a beam across, hold everything up, cut it out, put a bigger header in.
Right.
A longer header in. And the building official, if we left it up to the building official to decide how long the opening has to be, how wide, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, how wide the opening had to be, it wouldn't be that big a job for somebody to do it.
Probably not. Probably not.
Dressing it off might be take a little bit of time, but actually heading it off and supporting it and heading it off and creating the basic space. I would prefer to set it up, if we're going to approve it, that the building official decides how wide it has to be. And he may decide it has to be the whole length with a post in the middle to cover the support.
If I can just add, Christian made a good point that one of the other considerations that need to be taken into account is the current windows. The installation of those may not be meeting current energy code
Title 22.
standards. So it may be beyond just making that opening. It could be the windows as well. So.
And that would be up to the applicant to decide if he could actually afford to do what's been approved to do. He would be able to make that decision on his own. Because he'd go out and get himself a contractor to give him a price to do the work that was decided.
Right.
Right.
Commissioner Campbell.
Does finding 7 kind of get us there? They have to basically build subject to?
Finding, or a condition of approval 7 does provide that opportunity for the applicant to go home and just kind of redesign it and get the, get everything up to code and move forward in that fashion, yes.
Okay, so if we approve this as you've written it with condition 7
Yeah.
being part of that approval, then everything's got to be up to code, including Title 24 and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. As to Christian's question, has anybody looked at the existing addition or building that's up there currently?
The city has not been inside.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in other words, condition number 7 would address the issues that Commissioner Clifford was raising in terms of making any approvals subject to their discretion, the building official's discretion, or building official's approval,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell.
I would move forward with approving this. I won't make the motion yet, but that's just kind of where I am right now based on the fact that the building official's the city's gonna approve everything that's necessary.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. The question's back to the applicant. Why don't you step up there? If we were to approve with the condition 7, would you be able to comply with whatever may need to be done to make this a legal habitational area?
Within the 30 days?
Well, I'm going to tell you to work with staff on that one, because I don't know. Once you start the ball rolling, I mean, at least you are working at it at that point. So I'm not going to put a deadline from up here on it, but staff has already done that. So I'm just going to relay that to staff, and if you would be able to do that is the main question.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Clifford.
I've almost forgotten my question. It was actually for staff. I had a question about the 30 days, and if he's gone ahead, he's got his drawings in, he's pulled a permit, wouldn't that 30 days to make the actual changes be extended automatically? Because you have 6 months on a permit before your first inspection.
The 30 days are applying to addressing the current violations. They're not addressing the implementation of the proposed or of the project and making the project compliant. So what we tried to do is keep the two separate. We wouldn't recommend having anything alter that 30 days. The condition clearly states that nothing's going to be extended based on any appeals or any delays to this approval due to the significant safety concerns of that unpermitted living space. So that's the way that staff has set up the condition 1 to address the current violations, and then condition 7 to allow for more time with the approved entitlements.
Thank you. I think you've answered it for both me and the rest of the commission.
Commissioner Campbell.
All right, I'm going to make a motion. All right, I move that the Planning Commission finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and approve a variance PV-516-16, Site Development Permit PSD 812-16, and Coastal Development Permit CDP-373-16 by adopting the resolution included as Attachment C to the staff report, including conditions of approval in Exhibit A to the resolution, and incorporate all maps and testimony into the record by reference.
Commissioner Behringer.
I'll second the motion.
Please vote. That passes unanimously. All right. There you go. Moving on to anyone aggrieved. Anyone aggrieved by the action of the Planning Commission has, how long? 10 calendar days? Was it 10? 10 calendar days to complain about it. No, to file an appeal. All right, moving on to the next public hearing. Coastal Development Permit filed by owner Joshua Moore to construct a one-story addition of approximately 661 square feet and attached deck of approximately 250 square feet to the rear of an existing single-family dwelling at 1493 Grand Avenue. Recommended CEQA status is Class 1 exemption, and the recommended action is to approve as conditioned.
Good evening.
We have a staff report, please.
Pardon me. Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. I'm Associate Planner Christian Murdoch from the Planning Department. The project before you is the same one as reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission with Coastal Development Permit CDP 345-14 on August 18th, 2014. The applicant has applied for consideration of this project because his previously approved permit expired on September 16th, 2016. The proposed addition would result in the existing single-family home continuing to function as a one-story structure. The continuation of the existing living area into the addition would occur at the same floor level, and the addition would not raise the roofline of the structure. The materials and architectural design would further integrate the addition with the existing structure. However, due to the downsloping topography of the lot from the street to the rear of the property, The addition would create an understory area used for storage by the applicant. The proposed project, being relatively small and minor in nature, would be consistent with the city's local coastal program. As described in the staff report, the project is consistent with the LCP because it would not interfere with the public's right of access to the sea, because it would occur contiguous with existing developed areas with adequate public services, and because it would not have individually or cumulatively significant adverse effects on coastal resources. In addition, because the proposed addition is small and minor in nature, the project qualifies for exemption from the environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. In staff's assessment, the circumstances and conditions applicable to the project site are the same as those that existed at the time of the Planning Commission's last approval of this project. So for these reasons set forth in my verbal presentation and in further detail in the staff report, staff recommends Planning Commission approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Any questions for staff? I don't see any. So at this time, if the applicant is present and wants to address the Planning Commission, now's the time.
I'm Joshua Moore, owner of the house. Appreciate you guys hearing me out on this. It's been a very long process trying to get this done. I've had a lot of issues with my architect/engineer, and that's why we're here today, again, because I couldn't get things done on time. But with that said, I'm not as eloquent as your previous speaker on thanking you guys for hearing me out on this, but so hopefully I can try to get this going sooner rather than later to get this taken care of before I see you guys again in 2 years, which I'll be 2 years older, and so will my house and my family. But anyway, so I would hope that we could get going on this, possibly, hopefully, maybe, and thanks so much for working so hard on this, Christian. I really appreciate your hard work and dedication to trying to get me moving forward on this. Yeah. And I'm open to any kind of questions you guys have or anything you guys want to know.
Thank you very much. Any questions for applicant? I don't see any at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, Commissioner Clifford.
I had a quick question for staff. I remember reading in here somewhere that there had been some issues about getting the sprinkler system set up. There wasn't any callback on that, or is that issue been settled? Was that an earlier issue, and I just am sticking it in with tonight's hearing?
I wouldn't describe it as an issue, Commissioner Clifford. It was simply a point of clarifying the applicable fire code requirements. The way it was portrayed in the staff report was that we didn't want to make it a surprise for the property owner. It wasn't amplified in the previous report and approval, and there would have been an opportunity earlier to make it clear to the property owner that the fire sprinkler retrofit for the entire home applied to the project, but requests for information to the property owner's engineer went unresponsive, and so there was not an earlier opportunity to amplify that requirement, and that's why we've pointed it out in the report and in the conditions of approval.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be an issue for us. It'll eventually be an issue with the applicant and the building official. They'll handle that stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Behringer.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for staff. I was just looking at the vicinity map this afternoon, and it looks as though this house is constructed across 2 lots. And I'm assuming, but I thought I'd ask you, is it correct to assume that those lots were tied together some time ago, so we're not talking, we don't have to do that now?
I had not previously noticed that this site consisted of 2 lots. The commissioner might be referring to the easement, the sewer easement?
No, I'm looking at the vicinity map, and it looks like the house is constructed across 2 separate lots. In fact, it looks like the 3 houses in a row that are shown on the front page of the plans. It's probably a technical issue, but maybe we should just verify that and clean that up at the same time. It's a title issue. It shouldn't be that big a deal.
Sure. So I can certainly look into see if these lots had previously been merged. It wasn't a focus of the review previously.
Right.
Even if that was the
And
case,
it wouldn't, and
it's
it normally
routine.
wouldn't be. You just assume that it had been done when the original structure was erected, but.
Right.
But if it's not, we can clean it up at this point. It's not a, I'm not trying to hold it up, but we could take care of it at this point. The applicant could sign whatever documentation and record it that you need to get it done, if it's not already done.
He could, but it wouldn't necessarily be required, and that would put an additional burden and cost on the applicant if the commission
Oh,
chose to do
you would
that.
let it ride then? Because it's, what, grandfathered?
I don't understand the question. There's not an issue with
Most of the time when you're constructing on the top of property lines, the jurisdiction requires you to tie the two lots together and record it before they'll issue a permit to build.
Right.
They don't want you building across property lines, essentially.
Understood. I'm not aware of a municipal code requirement to do that. There is a function in the city's subdivision standards where substandard lots are merged, and that may have been the case at this lot back in the 1980s when large swaths of the city were subject to changes in state law that triggered that process. So we can certainly look into see if that's
Yeah.
been done.
I don't see it as a big deal. I like the project. I think it's great, and I'd like to do what we can to get this thing expedited so you can get on your way with it. Thank you.
Okay. At this point, we're going to open up a public hearing. Anybody wanting to speak on the matter has an opportunity to do so. I don't see any cards or anybody wanting to speak on the matter, so I'm going to close the public hearing and bring the deliberations back to the Planning Commission. Ba-doom, bop. Okay. Commissioner Clifford.
Well, I like the project. I don't remember if I was on when this was approved originally, but I might have been. It's a good project. It's been approved once before. There are no substantial changes. I don't see any reason for us to second guess the original commission that approved it.
Okay. How about a motion? Commissioner Clifford.
I move that the Planning Commission find the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act approved coastal development permit CDP-376-16 by adopting the attached resolution, including conditions of approval in Exhibit A, and incorporate all maps and testimony into the record by reference.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans.
I'll second that motion.
Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Congratulations. Anyone aggrieved by the actions of the Planning Commission has 10 calendar days to appeal it in writing to City Council. Moving on to the last public hearing. It's a sign permit filed by Ruth Bennett of JB Signs to construct an approximately 4-foot wide and 6-foot high double-sided monument sign containing a total of 30.36 square feet of sign area at 137 Manor Drive. The on-site sign would be located within an island at the front and center of the existing commercial parking lot. The recommended CEQA status is exempt, and the recommended action is to approve as conditioned. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening again, Commissioners. The 7-Eleven store located at 137 Manor Drive is proposing to construct a new monument-style freestanding sign located in the landscaped island at the front and center of their parking lot. The proposed sign structure would be approximately 4 feet wide and 6 feet high, a double-sided sign containing a total of 33.68 square feet of sign area. A previous freestanding pole sign was located in a similar area but was damaged and removed from the site. Currently, the site has no freestanding sign. The copy of the sign would contain the 7-Eleven logo, which is representative of the business name, and no other information would be present on the sign. The sign would include interior illumination. The length of the street frontage of the site allows for a maximum of 63.75 square feet of signage at the site. The site has 2 existing wall signs that total 12.5 square feet. Therefore, the addition of the 33.68 square feet from the new sign would result in a total of 46.18 square foot of signage on site, which is below the permitted maximum. As part of the sign installation, the applicant would replace the existing ice plant and tree sapling vegetation in the landscaped island with drought-tolerant and mostly native plants. No change would be made to the 2 existing overhead lights that are located in the landscaped island. The location of the sign would not present any obstructions to the adjacent sidewalk. Additionally, condition of approval 13 would require the applicant to provide a site distance analysis, which would confirm the sign is not located in an area that would create a visual obstruction to motorists. Lastly, condition of approval number 2 would require the applicant to provide specifications for the proposed illumination to ensure low-intensity lighting would be used and would not intrude on neighboring properties. Staff recommends approval for this project as conditioned, as the proposed sign would be consistent with the provisions of the Pacifica Municipal Code, General Plan, and Pacifica Design Guidelines, and provides a reasonable degree of identification to the business. The proposed sign would be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under a Class 11 categorical exemption. That concludes my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? I don't see any. I do. Commissioner Behringer.
Thank you. I have one question. I was out there this afternoon, and I think I was concerned about a 5-foot setback from the sidewalk because it is a monument sign. And if you pull up to the sidewalk, you're probably not going to be able to see oncoming traffic. And it appears as though they've got plenty of room to move the sign back if they want to. So are you planning on just doing 2 poles and pulling up in a car and seeing if it blocks it and then make a determination on site? Is that kind of your plan?
As a qualified engineer can do a site analysis to make sure that the areas that a motorist would need to make safe maneuvers in that area are clear from any obstructions.
Because typically it's more of a 10-foot setback than 5 feet, just to get it back past the front dash of a normal passenger car, so people can see to make cars coming with, if they want to make a right turn out or to see oncoming traffic coming. Okay, that was the only concern I had. Other than that, it looks fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Clifford.
Yeah, I had a question about the landscaping. I believe it said that the landscaping was going to be done at the same time as the sign, but I didn't see it in either in the condition of approval about any landscaping, nor did I see anything in the approval, the commission's approval of the project that said anything about landscaping being done.
It's part of the plans, so the approval of the project would approve the landscaping. The landscape plan is the last
That's right here.
page of the plans. No, I'm sorry. Second, L1. It shows you the placement and proposed species.
Okay. So at any rate, the landscaping will be happening at the time of the sign going in. The sign goes in, the landscaping goes in. Is the landscaping subject to approval of the planning director? It doesn't seem to be specific about what the landscaping is, other than that it's supposed to be drought tolerant and native.
The plans itself actually detail the botanical name and species of the exact plants that they're proposing to use, and then the diagram shows the proposed placement of each species.
Okay, thank you. I must have missed that.
If the commission would like, you can also add a condition stating that the construction drawing submitted shall include a landscape plan in accordance with sheet L1 of the plan submitted.
I would be more comfortable if something like that were in our approval, if we approve it.
Great. Okay. Let's see. No more questions or comments with staff. Moving on to the, I'm going to invite the applicant up if they want to speak on any issue to the Planning Commission. You have an opportunity to do so.
Hi, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Ruth Bennett. I'm Jeff Bennett with JB Signs. We will be doing the installation of the sign. There will be someone coming back to do the brickwork and the landscaping when we're done installing the sign. So just so you know that that's not our scope. But yeah, we're actually installing the sign pretty much in place where the 20-foot pole sign blew over back in the winter of, I think it was last year, early winter. And they sent me a new sign, 20-foot pole sign, which is still sitting in my shop, and said, go put that up. And I said, wait a minute, we got to do this the right way. So that's why we're here. And now we have a monument sign. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at this point, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody who wants to speak on this matter has an opportunity to do so right now. I don't see any interest, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much, and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, I think the project looks good. I just want to emphasize the need for the study on the visual safety aspect, because the Ocean Shore School is right there. Lots of kids cut across that parking lot. A lot of parents moving in and out of there, out of that parking lot. So I've been hit by someone coming out of that 7-Eleven who couldn't see already. So, you know, I would like to really make sure that that analysis is done so that the utmost safety of the kids there is taken into consideration. Thanks.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I too agree with Commissioner Campbell. But I do like the idea of the lower monument sign. I think it looks a lot better than what I live right up the hill from there, and it looks a lot better than what the old one did. And maybe it won't blow over. So, but yeah, I am with my other commissioners about the safety aspect, but hopefully the engineer will take care of that. Thank you.
I had a question for staff. I guess I too am concerned about the 5-foot setback and the possibility of, you know, somebody pulling out, having their ability to see laterally being impaired by the monument sign. And you said that there's an engineering study going to be done? So how is that concern going to be addressed?
So what an engineer will do is they'll do a site distance analysis. So they'll draw like a site distance triangle from when a car is at the driveway and pulling out, and they'll be able to determine that the site distance is adequate, and so that there's clear vision for anybody who's making a turn there. And you know, it's possible that or probable that our engineering division has already done that, but it's also something that they'd like to see an independent civil engineer stamp the design and put it in our file so that we have it, that an independent engineer has also studied this.
So it is an independent evaluation in the conditions of approval?
Yes.
It is?
Yes. What is it?
13. 13, right?
13.
Great.
Yep.
Great. It doesn't say anything about it being an independent person, or am I missing that?
I probably said that. It doesn't say independent. It probably just came out of my mouth.
Provided site distance analysis. Applicants provide. Is that something that we could modify by saying an independent site distance analysis? Or is that just, it's implied since the applicant's going to get it and they're not exactly going to hire
They're going to hire somebody to do that, yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. Commissioner Clifford.
I have a question for staff. Now, if engineering goes out there and cannot find, what they find is that there isn't a safe space for this, would that mean that the applicant would have to come back and put a pole back up?
Yep.
Because I think that that's probably why the pole sign was put up in the first place, was for line of sight. And
So if the designs change so dramatically that it goes from a monument to a pole sign, that would need to come back. If it needs to just move back or over slightly, I think that that's substantially consistent with this approval. Yeah.
But engineering, an engineer will be looking at it and will also determine whether or not
Yes.
it's safe at all.
Yes.
That's where I wanted to go. Thank you.
Okay. I think, do we need to open up a public hearing? What's the process?
You can vote to reopen the public hearing.
Okay. You guys want to,
I move we reopen the public hearing.
all
I'll
right.
second that.
Okay, please vote. Okay, you may speak.
Typically, what we've done in other cities is that they have an outline for the speed limit of the street, the setback of the sign, and the distance from the driveway to the sign, and they call it a visibility triangle, and what we do is we put that on the drawings to show that there is enough setback for that speed limit, and that pretty much has been, clear, but that helps out with the whole process. But if you guys don't have those guidelines, I don't know how that works, because normally the city gives us those guidelines. So, I mean, I could come up with Palo Alto's guidelines and show them to you, but I don't know if that's going to satisfy what you need. So just so I just wanted to let you know.
Thanks, Ed. We appreciate that. It sounds like that those guidelines are going to come from the independent analysis.
Well, I believe the engineering division has those guidelines, but they want an engineer that's not the city's engineer to put those on a plan and stamp it and say that he or she has analyzed this and this is a safe place for the sign.
Great. Okay. Oh, closing the public hearing right now. And moving on, so what are the wishes of the Planning Commission? Do we want to make a motion? Everybody take a big gulp.
If I could find it.
Here it is. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion. Move that the Plan Commission finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, approved sign permit S117-15 by adopting the resolution included as attachment B to the staff report, including conditions of approval and in Exhibit A to the resolution, and incorporate all maps and testimony into the record by reference.
Thank you. Commissioner Clifford.
I would second that if we add a condition dealing with the landscaping.
I have no problem in adding that.
And I think Tina had the exact wording of that.
That the project plans shall include landscaping as shown on sheet L1 of the, of attachment C.
I have no problem with that.
Perfect.
Therefore, I'll second that.
Perfect. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Any I don't need to say that aggrieved stuff after every approval, do I? I thought we used to say it just at the end, right?
No, everyone.
Come on, guys.
Everyone.
Anyone aggrieved by the actions of the Planning Commission has 10 calendar days to appeal it in writing to the City Council. Okay, great. We are done with the public hearing, and we are moving on to Commission communications. I am Commissioner Clifford.
I wanted to draw the public's and the commission's attention to an article in the Sunday business section of the San Francisco Chronicle about new laws to make second units easier. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you, but there is an article in the recent Sunday paper that covers new state laws that we're either going to have to get in line with and or have our own laws that do similar things. So I just wanted to point that out. And there was one other little thing, and that was I was so pleased when I was reading the minutes of the meetings I missed to see that Caltrans is going to be working on the pedestrian overcrossing. I was the one who came into a city council meeting with a 15-pound chunk of concrete that had fallen off of it onto the road and yelled, "Fix it!" So I am very pleased to see that it's going to be redone. So that's that.
Good stuff. I don't see any more lights. Moving on to staff communications.
Just a few things. So first of all, just to let you guys know that all that commotion back there was that there was a few 911 calls from this building, and they were unfounded at first, but it turns out maybe the elevator phone is malfunctioning, so, or somebody was in there messing around with it. So all is good, but that's what that was. So Commissioner Clifford beat me to the punch, but I wanted to let you guys know that this coming year, there's going to be a couple legislative matters before you to make recommendations to the City Council. One of them is the accessory dwelling unit ordinance update to comply with state law, and also implementation of Prop 64. It's going to be a complicated issue involving several departments, not only land use and planning, but police, finance, and taxation. And so a big chunk of that is going to be here in front of you as the Planning Commission to adopt zoning ordinance standards dealing with marijuana dispensaries. And we haven't really set out our plan internally, but there's going to be a community outreach mechanism that we'll be implementing, and that'll include at least a couple, I think, study sessions in front of the Planning Commission.
Commissioner Campbell.
It's a quick question on Prop 64 implementation. Is there going to be a period where we haven't adopted an ordinance yet, but it becomes legal to establish one of these facilities? And is there time given in the proposition for the cities to come up to speed?
So yes. So the proposition requires that any marijuana dispensary not only get a permit from the local jurisdiction, but they also need a permit from the state. So they need a two-step process. And so the state won't be issuing permits unless the local jurisdiction says it's okay to issue permits, because some jurisdictions have moratoriums against them. And a state will not likely be issuing permits until January of 18. So we have all of 2017 to come up with our own local ordinance that suits us. And so because it's such a complicated matter, we're starting now, hopefully. I'm urging us to start now. So we'll be ahead of that and not rushing at the end of the year next year.
Thank you. Can I sneak in a quick question? Just because I'm being asked. It's a totally separate matter. What's going on with the old Denny's site?
The old Denny site, so Kimco has an application in with us, and it's public information if anybody wants to come in and look at it. But the application is to tear down the site and to rebuild a 2-unit commercial building. One of them is already slated to be a restaurant, just a smaller footprint. And then the other space is, I think, still available. And so they are wrapping up some revisions to their plans and will be ready to go to hearing here in front of you guys relatively quickly.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I think you answered my question. I'd heard also that the state would not be issuing any permits until 2018, so you just confirmed it. Thank you.
And because people ask you guys a lot of questions because you're planning commissioners, Chief Steidel is putting together an FAQ for the community. It's going to be posted on our website, so I'll make sure you guys get a link to that so you can see what we're telling everybody.
Thank you. We'll probably need the help.
Yeah, it's high time. Commissioner Behringer.
Yes, thank you. Further to that question, I've been reading, I guess, in local papers where Half Moon Bay is looking not only into the retail dispensary part, but the actual cultivation part from a land use standpoint. And I hadn't really thought about that, but it seems like that could be a pretty substantial opportunity for our city, given the open area that we currently have, and it's way more complicated than just identifying it as a place you can grow marijuana. There's security issues and all kinds of things that are going to come into play. So maybe that's a part of the entitlement process that you could also consider, because that could be a commercial creation of jobs and land use that's kind of different from what you normally would think of as an agricultural or an agribusiness type approach. Then the second question that I have is, do you guys have any status on the house that was, updates on the house that was moved from the Bluffs? It's got all kinds of signs on it, and it seems to be still there. So I was wondering if you guys had any interaction with the owners on that.
So that particular owner is involved in a grant process to, she qualifies for this grant to help fund the demolition of the home. Oh. And then the lot would then be ultimately dedicated to the city to further the coastal trail in that area. And we actually will have an item in front of you next Planning Commission to approve CDPs for demolition for not only that unit, but also the house immediately to the north. They're not necessarily ready because of the grant process. One of them at least is going through, but getting the CDPs done ahead of time will mean that they have a whole year where they're valid, and if any emergency happens over the winter storms that Public Works needs to take action, we'll be ready with the CDP already in hand.
Okay, so they've for all intents and purposes have abandoned the adventure of moving the house to another lot and locating it there? I
can't say that it's abandoned because I don't know the outcome of that state grant that they're going for. But it looks good that they will get it, and that process involves demolishing the house.
Now, has their timing expired? Do we have to extend anything, or are they still? Because it seemed like they had a pretty short fuse, as I recall, when we approved it, and I think that time has passed, unless you could. I forgot if we gave you the opportunity to extend it unilaterally.
I did one extension, I believe, and they need to come in for their regular CDP. Okay. And so that's what we're going to be hearing next Planning Commission meeting.
Great. I think we've reached the end of the road. Commissioner Clifford.
I move that we adjourn.
Commissioner
I'll second.
Commissioner, everybody. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Thank you and good night.